discussion videos. Haven't done one in a minute, but these are my favorite type of videos. Ultra Super Janemba. He's so overrated and he's not good at all. Now, I said two things right there, and one of them is true, one of them is not. Now, the thing I genuinely think is true is the fact that he's overrated. But is he not good? That's just a lie. He's great, in fact. He's actually really good. If you're using him in PvP, he's gonna get you very, very far. There's been a lot of times where he's beat me, and there's been times where I'm sure you've used him. I don't have him, but you've probably used him, and he's just destroyed the enemy player. But in this video, I want to address why I think he's overrated, and I'm sure a lot of people already have noticed this, but will also agree. If you're on the opposite spectrum, if you're on the spectrum of knowing he's overrated, then you will just be enjoying this video. But of course, this is just my opinion, so don't come at me too crazy. It's been a big discussion on twitter.com. I make banger tweets on Twitter, by the way, so you should definitely go follow me on Twitter, man. Twitter is the spot. My name is Zakashi with 3 eyes at the end. You'll love it there for sure. But I made this tweet that I'm gonna put on the screen right now. And in the tweet I said, this has to be my most overrated unit in the game. He's a great unit, and I want to emphasize, he is a great unit. However, all you have to do is intentionally pop his gauge early so he draws his ultimate early. Let a green or a tanky unit take it, and after that, he becomes easy to deal with. Now, what I will say immediately is that I should have said easier to deal with, because in most cases, if the Janemba player is good at the game, they will still get one up over you. Now, before I go into giving my reasons as to why I really think Ultra Super Janemba is overrated, I'm going to show you this follow-up tweet which I made much more recently. This tweet here, units I think are consistently doing something special throughout any PvP game, and I explained it in the reply. The 4 units that I put on the screen: Ultra Vegito Blue, the new transforming Beast Gohan, Gold Frieza, and Android 17, the Legends Limited. In the reply, I explain UVB, he has the vanish on kill, he has the green card counter, and he has the easiest cover nullification in the game. He literally just has to get into the battlefield, he gets cover nullification, and when his gauge fills, he's gonna get even more. Beast Gohan, he has so much vanish recovery, and when he transforms, he's gonna take away your vanish just like that, which is insane. Of course, under the condition that his gauge is filled. Gold Frieza, he literally has a rush counter, so you can't rising rush him, and he has 2 elements which no other unit in the game has, being blue and purple, not the reverse like a lot of these tag units. And then 17, he has uncancelable endurance, insane disruption, and he gets vanish recovery when he does a vanish step, which is insane. To finish off the tweet I wrote, these are not reproducible by the average top 10 unit. Now, before I go into explaining further, I want to just emphasize, for 17, some units that also have something special, for example, the likes of LL Rose and Full Power Frieza, they can consistently nullify endurance, so 17 won't be able to protect himself from that. Those are the only exceptions, because those units are also very, very special. They do something that no other unit can just easily do. But I use these units because they are top 10 units in the game. But let's go back to the topic focus. Ultra Super Janemba. If you pop his gauge early, and I get over him all the time by doing this, bring a green or a tanky unit. Almost every team that's really meta relevant in the game has one or the other. I use movies a lot of the time, so I'm using Pycon and Gogeta. They eat that ultimate like there's no tomorrow. If you're not using a green, which could also be Orange Piccolo for example, you might have a purple unit that could easily tank. In this meta, a lot of people use the LL Jiren nowadays. If you're not using him, even the likes of 17 can tank. I want to also mention Evoken. I don't know how I forgot about him. Or any tag switch unit at that. The Gammas, Gold Frieza, simply because they can get the health back. In my experience, 99% of Ultra Super Janemba players will let you pop the gauge immediately if you get priority at the start of the game. The reason why they would is because the intention of the gauge is to be used. So the players use the gauge. They don't think for the long game. Now, with the exception you do come up against a good player, they would preserve the gauge for late game. The first gauge pop from Ultra Super Janemba is the most important because you draw an ultimate from it. When you draw that ultimate, you're able to do crazy damage, but if you do it too early, it's either going to get healed up by most units in the game that are being used consistently, or it's just not going to do any damage, so it's not going to matter. But if you saved it for late game, there's more scenarios where you could easily take somebody out which would make it more effective. But because he only draws one ultimate from the first pop and not the other ones, if you can get rid of that first one early in the game, later in the game, he's not going to be able to utilize that ultimate. As a result, he obviously becomes easier to deal with. The ult from his gauge pop is not something that can be consistently used throughout the whole game, which is why I call him overrated. This obviously relies on the player you're facing, but like I said, most players, and I'm talking 99% of players, will let you pop it because the intention of the gauge is to be popped. So it's not really a big deal unless you're coming up against a genuinely good player. And if that's the case, if you're coming up against a genuinely good player, they could beat you probably without the gauge. So you should be worrying about other things. But at this point, I've pretty much explained my reasonings for it. But let me explain some things to actually defend Ultra Super Janemba, because it's not all bad. So of course, I've given you the downplay on why his gauge isn't that effective and why most players don't utilize him well, making him appear a lot worse than he actually is. More specifically because his first gauge pop is the most valuable, and then after that it's not as valuable. But that's not to say it's not valuable at all. Do not make that mistake. There's a lot of things you get out of his gauge, and let's talk about them right now. So it says here, applies the following effects to self when counter activates. Randomly destroys one of your own cards and draws the ultimate arts card, Needle Light Shockwave next. Activates once. So we're just gonna destroy all of that because that's only on the first gauge pop. We gotta think about the other times. So he's gonna get 20% health, he's gonna restore 50 ki, he's gonna restore Vanishing Gauge by 100%. That happens every time, by the way. He's also gonna get type neutral on damage sustained. So any damage he takes will be type neutral, which is good. And then he gets 1 level of draw speed for 15 timer counts. I think the biggest thing here is that he goes type neutral for 15 timer counts against damage sustained, so he's going to become a lot more tankier, and on top of that, he's going to get his vanish back, which is just a plus in itself. We should also highlight that he also gets an ultimate from his main ability, so if timed correctly, he could use his second gauge in the same way as his first gauge. And if he doesn't have the ultimate, he could always use a special move which can also be chained from the gauge. So it's not all bad for Janemba, but to say he's overrated, I think is just a given. People rate him as a top 1, top 2 unit in the game, and if you're asking me, that's just insane. When a unit can be so easily countered, or at least overcome in one core way of their kit, then at the same time have all these people rate him so highly, it just doesn't make sense. But what I will say is that with his first gauge pop, even though it's not consistently giving him ultimates, he still has a good kit frame, which can easily dominate a lot of units in the game. So don't sleep on him just because I'm downplaying the first gauge pop. He will still mess you up even without that if the player knows how to use the unit. On top of the fact he also is still protected if his gauge fills up again because of the other factors. So back to the second tweet now. I compared those 4 units, UVB, Beast, Gold Freezer, and 17. I think what makes a unit truly special is when they have something that can consistently carry them throughout the whole game. A lot of units have something like this, whether they phase out over time or not. In their prime, they will always be able to shine because there's one thing that they have that keeps them alive throughout the whole game. Units that tend to fall off faster usually have something that make them appear as a one-trick pony. Not to say that's Ultra Super Janemba, but all units in the game get power crept, and talking in reference to his gauge, if that ultimate isn't even doing damage, that just makes it a whole lot worse for him. But with those 4 units that I pointed out, they will have quite a bit of longevity, and they've already proven so, minus Beast because he's new, but they're all doing something that's not easily reproducible by the rest of the game. A lot of people have mentioned Evoken in this post in the replies, and to counter that, their main thing is that they'd have long combos. Long combos are amazing, don't get it wrong, but a lot of units can do long combos, and I'm obviously not exaggerating to say anybody's matching Evoken's 99 plus combos, but in reality, long combos can be matched, long enough to take you out. So if we're really breaking it down, long combos are not so unique to the point where I would mention Evoken in the same conversation as these 4 units that I've put on the screen in this tweet. But I think that pretty much wraps up the video and my thoughts on why I think Ultra Super Janemba is overrated. Let me know what you guys think about it. 9 times out of 10, I overcome Ultra Super Janemba, but if the player is good, it's not going to be as easy as it seems. Press the subscribe button, man. We're on this grind to 100,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching the video, man. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man. All right, bringing out another Janemba. You know the plan, getting out his gauge. This one isn't very... He's not in the know-it-all. He's not in the know-it-all. Alright, the game becomes normal from here. Time to dominate the field. Drop combo right here. Okay, didn't have to. Oh, I was meant to do this. Alright, so I'm gonna pop this, and I'm gonna do a blue card with Pycon, right? And I'm gonna glide a bit, then do another one after the green. Oh, I thought he would have done something. Strike cancel, probably. Oh, that's even worse. GG's, bro. Look at that slow-mo. Why did he come down like that? Yo, we had to replay. Smoked him so hard, the game started tweaking. Yo. I know USG doesn't have an equip. It just doesn't matter. All right, so the mission here is to just take out his gauge straight away. And I sidestepped like a fool. I should have waited. And now he switched out. I'm going to try catch him on the next play. Drop combos. Oh, this guy might be half decent. Not that I'm especially worried. My gauge is about to fill. Full screen strike beyond heaven and hell. Nice. Pan's taking my key. Good play, man. I didn't think he would switch out like that. This is annoying. Why is a good Janemba... Why am I even running into good Janemba players now? I'm gonna vanish here. Oh. Where's he at, coach? I'm just gonna press all of these. Thank you. I want to see how much damage he'll do to my UGB. UGB should be able to eat these, but I will see. Nice. Kind of wasted the main there, but his gauge is gone, so my life is going to be much easier. Look, he's popping the O already. Long range blue card. Oh, that works. And he's out. Second one out. Do you see how Janemba completely switched up? Once, like, his gauge went, he had to become super aggressive. It was so immediate for him. Because the passive gameplay gets deleted out of his playstyle. Oh, I fumbled there. I fumbled big time. I should have just waited. Oh, that gauge is gonna... Got him. Got him. I think I'll just rush to take out Gohan. Oh, I didn't even need to tap. If he blue cards, he's so getting rushed. If he tackles, I'm gonna press the strike. No, actually, I'm gonna let him hit me if he tackles. Smartest play in my decision. I can't risk losing UVB over a dumb decision of being aggressive. I want to fill my gauge. I'm not going to be able to though. All right, he got the revival out. One parry and it's over, I guess. That's kind of cheesy, but it's part of the game, man. I did the green card on purpose. And we closed out the game. That Janemba player wasn't bad, to be honest. He had the IQ to know that he can't lose his gauge instantly, so he was playing a lot more like in the game. He wasn't just standing still. So shout out to him.